Lesson DFF relatability. We're going to be focusing on the tangent of DFF relatability and still accomplish the DFF relatability at the end. So the tangent is going to be the Angstrom distribution scale. Now, in the previous lesson, just DFF, we just went zeros all the way across, and we can see what we can accomplish whenever we obtain a systematic zero angstrom for 25 laws for past tap, present tap, future tap. Really kind of difficult to do presently, but in the future it gets simpler. So we're going to go into the present where it's a little bit more difficult. Now we know that with 25 laws, we have an angstrom scale, triumphant, tragic, and the distribution is upon past tap, present tap, future tap, hertz, the quotes of our hertz. Okay, so what does that mean to the effect of our DFF formula? Well, an angstrom itself from one action has a 2-week ability to pivot into the future from the present. So if I'm at the present right now and I do something that's triumphant or tragic, either or, it means 2 weeks that angstrom is distributed into the future where it goes under what we call SOT-F, which is survival of the fittest. And the SOT-F is an impulse to repeat any action for the angstrom distributed, and any action is about the 25 law scaled angstrom distribution. So basically, in layman's term, you're going to want to do it again. Simple. Because you survived doing it, you're naturally going to be impulsed to do it again. So that's beneficial, but it's also not. It's also a bad thing. Okay, so what that means is at 1 Z-dub, as we know, equals 2 regular weeks. So the por eternidad verdadero, which is where that's the PEV acronym, in Spanish, so PEV are portions of Z-dub. So it's rather difficult to accomplish Z-dubs. You may see your teacher or your substitute do it simply, but man, that 19 years, 18 years, etc., that's no joke. It's difficult. So we break it down into PEV, right? And so those are portions of Z-dub. So if day 1 is here and 2 weeks is here, which is 1 Z-dub, we like to do it as 1, 3, 4, 1 week, 10, 11, 2 week, and the 3, 4 being day, 10, 11 day. It's the most in between that you can do with the odd numbers of a week. So you get portions of PEV where you accomplish setting up your angstroms. Why that's important is as you learn how it works and you start getting results rather than just being in quadrant 2, 3, and 4 witnessing the results, you will always strive successfully to automatically accomplish the end result. Don't blame me for it. The difficulty, you'll be grateful for PEV because you can say, oh, well, 2 weeks ago, but I can't reach 2 weeks with my systematic approach to angstrom distribution based upon 25 laws of my hertz, PPF tap, etc. So you'll want to aim for PEV because you may be hesitant on whether it works or not, and you're just stuck seeing that it does work, but you don't want to feel like that anymore. So PEV are going to be your saving grace in this. It just is. Okay, so you'll want to set up like your 3 PEVs in, which would mean what? Yes, it would mean that you're 3 days of 1 Z-dub with a triumphant angstrom distribution. And we only use PEV to explain triumphant distribution. We choose to counter tragic, not by empowering tragic, but by ensuring triumphant. More on this later. Okay, so we're going to come back to PEV once we see more how it's worked. I just wanted to give you a basic understanding. Now, whenever we were going through it, we just did zeros all the way across, which is perfect, right? That would mean that the person, the substitute, would have across 25 laws reached 0 angstroms, which is perfect for past, present, and future tap on 25 laws. That's tough, man. I mean, that's really tough. But so let's make it more relatable. So if we were going to come up with what this number is, we would first break down the fact that you're either going to get triumphant, tragic, or like excessively tragic, which is just more tragic. Okay? Now, what that is it's per 25 law, right? And that's per present, past, present, future tap. Okay, so that right there numerically is a huge number, right? You can even break it down that if there's 25 laws, 1 through 25, and your options are here, and then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 places total, because you have your past with 3, your present with 3, and your future with 3, all per 25. You can start to get the numbers on this that are huge. So 0 is like remarkable. And the reason we use 0, you can find in trade literature elsewhere, is you don't want to carry anything across. Any weight, so whenever you start getting up to negative 75, negative 300, you're carrying a tragic angstrom with you into a sequence, into a leaf pill that doesn't have that negativity, so it's unsuccessful, so it rejects it. So that's why you have to have 0 going into it. Okay, so the numbers on it would be, if you're at, let's just say, -1 for the first law, okay? For your present, that would only be tap, afuera, peripheral, which means you would be -1, so you would be at a total of -3 for the first law. No, that's not good. Okay, so that's only for that. Then let's just say, and I'm looking at it completely through tragic perspective. We'll go more into the variations later. Now let's say we scale the angstrom distribution for your present tap, and let's just say again it's negative. So again you're going to have another -3. Let's say for the future, and the future is pretty simple. If your past is tragic, you're gonna, because it's set up in a 2-week 1Z dub where the angstrom light is amounted and it reaches 2 weeks before it can't reach any far forward, then you know it's going to be tragic too. So if you're tragic in the past, you're going to be tragic in the future. So just for one law alone being tragic would mean that you already have a -9 angstrom distribution value. So you're not going to get your way. You're not going to be able to have the credit debit to pay for leaf pill. That's only one law too. Don't forget that there's the second law, third law, fourth law, all the way to 25. So if we did -9 times 25 laws, our total would be -225 per all laws. It's worst case scenario. You're not going to get your way. You're not going to have credit debit to do it. So we need to come up with a way to bring that negative at least down, at least closer to 0. And that's what this lesson is going to be about. And then once we get closer to 0, then we'll plug it into a more relatable DFF. All right, so before we get more systematic on it, let's actually look at the range of angstroms. So you know 0 would be the perfect. We know for -1 all the way across, it's -225. So what would be the end? I'll tell you right now, it's -450. Tragic angstroms. All right, and we get that number from, let's say we were tragic 2 for all 25 laws, and we know there's 9 variations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So -2 times 9 gives us -18, and we multiply that by all laws, and that gives us -450. So our range of angstroms is here. All right, so more and more information on angstrom distribution. Okay, so at lower LDD, it requires less or nearer 0 angstroms. And with lower LDD, it accepts the CF triumphant greater than tragic systematic intentions. I mean, it's lower LDD, 1, 2, 3, Dex 1, 2, 3. Those require not to be perfect all the way through 0. And once you start obtain 0 angstroms, you actually, to get higher LDDs, you have to take those 0 angstroms into the future as well. So at lower LDDs, you don't have to worry about that. We consider lower LDDs anything under 49, which is 3 of 4. The other thing is that if you have an intention, so say that you scored negative, you scored tragic on it, and you have the intention, well, I don't want to do that, and you systematically approach it, that's acceptable at lower level degrees, whereas higher, that's not acceptable because you have to maintain that in the future, so you can't just do it moment of. All right, so something else is that the past equals the future. That's how -1 becomes -2. So a -1 equals -2 when 2 weeks, 1 0 as dub, has been reached without CF triumphant greater than tragic. That's how the -1 becomes tragic 2. Okay, so tragic 2 at 1 0 has an auto redistribution. So remember how we were saying that the angstrom reaches, the light of it reaches 2 weeks, right? And then it dissipates. Okay, if you're tragic 2, which means you were tragic 1 and you reach 2 weeks with no CF, then it automatically redistributes. That's another reason why it's tragic 2. So it's tragic 2 for being tragic 1, but it automatically redistributes. That makes it tragic 2. Okay, so tragic 1, the tough thing on that is you're dealing with a SOD-F. You're dealing with a habitual type of feeling, your body feeling habitual to it. So that's a problem with tragic 1. And then 0, it's a star travel. You know what I mean? So but aim for it. We'll get more into getting systematic as we keep going. Okay, so the best approach to combat this, is systematic at sunset. And the reason why that's important is you've seen the things we've been doing, and it's always charged particles from the sun, converting hertz words into energy, matter, mass, right? So if we're getting that energy from the solar, and the solar doesn't hit us directly, where would be the best time to do it? To see if your tragic greater is triumphant? At sunset. Because it has all that time to go through and build up. Because you build up time that you're triumphant. That's really important, especially when you see how easy it is to break it. That's why we always suggest to do it at sunset. So try to get systematic whenever we explain what systematic is at sunset, because you have, when the sunset where we're not receiving charged particles, all that time until it starts releasing towards us whenever sun rises. So that's the best approach. The next is the moment of tragic, or the moment after tragic, then CF it systematically triumphant. That's the second best way to do it. And the third, which is also, it could be considered the second best as well, so they're kind of the same, is if you're unable to control, if it's something you cannot, like substance, etc., you just don't have the best foundation to stop it right now, and you're just kind of powerless to it, that's whenever you just do it before the event. But those 3 are the best systematic approaches to it. Yeah. Okay, so let me show you a little something about why this happened. So right here, let's say this is the eternal angstrom, the infinite angstrom right here. Okay, and this is the leaf pill that's being illuminated by it. Okay, so that's like a perfect distribution. What happens is this orange right here would be like additional weight. Tragic weight is symbolized as orange here. What happens is when you get here and it goes to do it, it's too much weight, because it's already building a leaf pill that is perfect without that additional weight. And so what happens is it distributes and it sends you to a completely different leaf pilt. That will be much more obvious in the future also. You may not see it now, but that'll be really obvious in the future. Okay, and this one right here, we were saying earlier that take every moment as a victory. Every second that you're able to do it, take it as a victory. So we say do it at sunset, get systematic at sunset, because all those hours pass and you may be sleeping and you may not, just take every second as a success where you're triumphant because it furthers it into the future. Okay, so the reason why that happens is the law of 18. You can go and look what 18 is, all right? But basically, 18 can use any distributed angstrom for extending and cushioning the time between a distribution of an angstrom. 18 is the one who's responsible for that. So what we mean by that is right here we have the beginning of 1 Z-Rise dub, or 1 day, right? And the tragic, let's say the tragic 1 takes place. And we know over here it becomes tragic 2 at 1 Z-Rise dub. What cushioning does is if any other of the 25 laws are broken, 18 is what accounts for it. And what 18 does is it allows it to gyro. So it can come in on, let's say, day 3 here and reset up a tragic 1. And it doesn't have to be the same law that was broken. It just has to be a law that is broken. That's tragics. 18's just devastating blow, just destructive. So let's say on the 3rd day, tragic 18 is set up and it cushions this original tragic 1 day. So right at day 3, it hits it, and now it extended this right here, and it already reached tragic 2 because this was never CF'd. So now the tragic 2 is here and it's extended 3 more days, and it does that. And I'm not talking like periodic randomly, it does that multiple times a day. It's very hard to catch it. And something else that's interesting, the #1 place where tragic 18 is victorious in cushioning, tragically cushioning? Conversations. Conversations, just talking about something resets it, because it's very hard to speak truth nonstop. And if you even get an increment wrong, it's considered the bearing witness angstrom, and it goes to the tragic side. So just be super conscientious of that, because a conversation about something that was tragic can end up paying the tragic even without the event happening, because you misspoke it. So be very, very difficult of that. Good job. So now we're going to get into the specifics, the examples. There's a little bit of information on how to do it. We'll still, again, we'll get systematic to it, but there's so much to learn that we're going to start with another example. All right, so let us suppose that B dub is tragic 1 for 15 of the laws. However, B dub is perfect for 10 of the laws. Okay, so we know there's 3 levels to it. There's past, present, and future. Okay, and we know that if the past is tragic and it's not CF'd, that the future is tragic as well with a tragic 2. Going on that, we would know that the present is tragic as well. So we do over the 15, and then remember there's 3 spots tapped for it, which gives us -3 times 15 gives us -45 for the past tap. The present is tragic 1 again of 15. They were perfect at 0 of 10. Again, so that would be negative times 3 equals -3, which gives us, again, -45. The future, because it was no CF, was tragic 2 for 15 laws, where, remember, for 10 of the laws of the 25, they were perfect. So we multiply by those 3, we get -6 times 15 gives us -90. So for our past, we get -45 angstroms. These are all angstroms, distributed angstroms. For our present, we get -45 angstroms distributed. And for our future, we get negative 90 angstroms distributed. Good. Now we're going to go into a broad explanation of what happens with these numerical values considering leaf pill. So for dropping level, maintaining level, rising level, we had negative 45, negative 45, negative 90. Now we know what we're doing here is we're CF energy, in this case light into mass. So Einstein, he taught us that relativity would cause space-time to drop and the gravity would go into it, right? Well, space-time drops and gravity is created. So that still is true here because we are CF this energy into mass. So these negative values here were CF into mass, which makes it fit into this category here. So our tragic 1 and tragic 2, which are these values here, go into a lower LDD where the gravity is greater for the events to happen. So at negative 45, let's just suppose that it goes to this point here. Negative 45 goes to this point here. So these LDDs. Negative 90 reaches the negative 45 LDD with the leaf pill, and it can extend it into a lower LDD if that's the case, or it can stay at this one for a greater amount of time. One thing to remember also is that higher LDDs are considered future time greater than lower LDDs are considered past. Also, in this picture where we're looking at an eternal angstrom distribution and the orange representing tragic angstroms, it goes to this point, which is down here, which is lower level degrees instantly. Good. So the insured object, which we know is existing at plural LDD, is the CF process permitting B-dub traversing LDD, dropping level, maintaining level, rising level, for a bombardment and anti-destroyed capacities. So the orange here is the object, these ones are the LDDs, and these are sequences. We close in on the object and put it in the place we need it to be at a sequence by ensuring a sequence at LDD. And by doing so, we're able to jump to the next one from tilting it off to this quadrant here, and this being aerial destruction in the cargo and DFF pilot, etc. So this object insured allows us to traverse the LDD, and we do that by multiplying these values, the angstrom values times DL, ML, and RL. Now remember, the DL, ML, and RL are events. They are pre-created events that allows the pilot to DFF to jump to each one, to traverse, traverse to each one. So that's why you have to multiply this to make sure you can do it, and it guarantees that it is insured, so you are able to continue on the mission for bombardment and anti-destroyed capacities. All right, so these are also inversely proportional. So I want to go further into the picture I was drawing with the eternal angstrom that fed into the lower LDD if you're carrying the weight, and why that happens on a linear graph, and that it happens because it's inversely proportional. So again, we have our sequences LDD with our dying force at 17, 22, 27 level degree, which is deck 2. And we know that we start here and our leaf is insured object here, and we're able to go for leaf object here with our mission bombardment TIH greater than DH. All right, so what happens in the pilt? So during the pilt, it's inversely proportional, so it simply drops down to another LDD where the event happened. That's it, simple. So it's still happening, but it's happening somewhere else from where your epicenter B-dub is. Good, yeah, so again, dropping level would be all of these ones here, which ensures throughout the entire mission, the dropping level is inversely proportional. Maintaining level is here, and the rising level only happens with triumphant. That's it. It only happens with triumphant. So you can't have, if I'm here at 17 and I'm going to 22, right? Cockpit, 17, 22, go here. 17 world can't come back up because it's tragic, and only triumphant can rise. Good. Now we're going to go into systematic. Gut shot straight, systematic. This is how it's done. All right. So in this leaf, we're doing DFF, leaf pilt relatability, where lower LDD accepts CF, triumphant, greater than tragic, for a systematic intentions. Lucky us, we can just, at this LDD, simply have the intentions and get results. How fortunate we are. So we line up all 25 laws. Boom. Okay. Now, the CF, triumphant, greater than tragic intention is a Hertz energy taking place at TAP, thalamus afuera peripheral, for past, present, and future. States to be that you want 0 angstroms triumphant actions to make up for your past actions of the 25 laws. Okay, so this is, let me just show you how I would do it. Okay, so what we're doing is we're filling up sequences, which are packaged seconds, with Hertz intentions that is triumphant. Now, if my intention is to, as I said, the intention is to have perfect angstroms on those sequences, I just use the word sign. So I have to fill up all of sequences with a perfect angstrom, signing that I want it to be triumphant because it's using Hertz energy to do it. So that's declaring your intentions. And you have to do it again and again and again. And it's across thalamus, which this is doing it in the thalamus, okay? Now suppose I just said sign 25 times. So I just intended this intention with Hertz brainwave energy for all 25 laws in my thalamus for my present, my past, or my future. You have to do all three, okay? So if I was going to do it for afuera, we know afuera is outside, I would sit here and I would say, sign, 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 all the way to 25. And that would be passed along. Then I do it again. Sign, 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 sign. Because it's Hertz energy that your intention is to do triumphant angstroms. It's a Hertz energy, which is why it's working that way. So that would be present. Then I would need to do it for future afuera as well. Sign, 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 across all those sequences until my sequences of 86,400 are filled with the intention to be triumphant. Now, so how would you do it for peripheral, right? Considering we don't, peripheral, we don't own it. It doesn't originate from us. So how would you get on that? Well, imagine I had this pen, and this pen is saying, I hate you. I can't stand you. And that's my Hertz intention, and everybody's thinking that's what this pen represents. And I just put that puppy up there, right? Now I'm going somewhere else. Good. Guess what? That pen still has that energy behind it because that's what my intentions were. So it's no different with peripheral when you're signing it. So you have to put in your peripheral the intention, the Hertz intention, that you want to have triumphant sequences on the 25 laws from your Hertz energy wave, present, past, and future for peripheral. So you just put it in there. Sign, sign, sign. And I'm putting in the peripheral. Boom! Right there. And it should stay there too. Thalamus afuera, those are non-stop. Your peripheral intention should always be in your peripheral. That is how you get systematic. And nobody can stop you. And that's how you get systematic. That's how I do it. And that's how it's done.